Hi guys. I'm not sure if this will be up before my other reading vlog or not, but if this is the first video up, I am currently in a different location, as we can see, and the AC is on, so I'm sorry if that's a little bit loud, but I am in my dorm. I'm at college right now, so this is probably where I'll be filming for the next couple of months until I go home for winter break. But I wanted to do a little September TBR, so being as I'm, not home, I don't have my collection of 300 books to choose from today, but I did bring some books with me. I brought a total of 10, some of them were series, so I pulled all the first ones of the series off of my shelf. So these are all of my physical options, and then I always do have Kindle options as well. However, I will say one stipulation: I do still want to try to tackle my physical TBR, so if I read something on my Kindle, I want to try to make it a book that I own physically that I just don't have with me right now, if that makes sense. So like the Binding 13 series, for example, I've been reading them off of Kindle Unlimited, but I own the physical books, so technically it's taking them off my physical TBR to be reading them, even if I'm not reading the physical copy that I own. So that's my little spiel about that. Today I thought we'd do something a little fun for my September TBR, which is I'm gonna let ChatGPT choose my TBR, kind of. So I asked ChatGPT to give me 5 prompts to pick books, and we are gonna go through those and choose books for them, because obviously I don't have a TBR prompt jar anymore. So we're gonna go through those prompts. It's a little bit similar to the TBR prompt jar, it's just that I am getting my prompts from AI. So we're gonna let AI choose my TBR this month, and we'll see how that goes. But let's get into picking my September TBR. So the first prompt that I have that it gave me is pick a book from your TBR that you've been excited about for a while but haven't gotten to yet. So I am going to come up with a couple of options either from this list, or I'm also gonna go through I took pictures of all my bookshelves before I left, so I knew what books I would have. And I'm going to go through that, and we'll see what books I've had for a while that I just haven't gotten to, even though I'm excited to read them. And then I'll let you guys know what I pick. I will say a lot of the books that I have physically are relatively new, or they're part of series. So a lot of them I haven't really been excited about for a very long period of time, so I want to kind of try to pick something that's been on my TBR for a little bit longer. However, I will say that the Happy Ever After playlist is a solid option, because I read the first book of the series, which was The Friend Zone, a couple months ago, I think 2 months ago now, and I am really excited to read this, especially knowing who it's about and her backstory from that other book. So this is definitely an option. However, I've not been excited about it for super long time because I hadn't read the first book yet. So I think the one that I'm going to pick is Anatomy, a Love Story by Dana Schwartz. This one I've owned for a little bit. I saw Rachel Catherine talk about it and decided that it sounded like something I'd be interested in reading, especially being an aspiring, I don't want to say aspiring surgeon, because that's not really what I aspire to be, but I am interested in anatomy, so why not read the book called Anatomy? And I bought both the hardcovers of this duology off of Amazon. Highly recommend, by the way, because under the dust jacket, I don't have a picture of it, but Anatomy, it looks like a heart, but it's also a girl's dress. And then under the dust jacket is a really beautiful pink foiled drawing of a heart, if that makes sense. I'll see if I can find a photo and I'll put it up. But I, since seeing that, have been even more excited to read it because it's just gorgeous, and I want to love the book as much as I love the cover. And little secret, I did start this book a little bit ago on my Kindle, so I think it's the perfect first book for my September TBR. I'm 22% of the way through, so a little less than a quarter. It's not super long, so I'm hoping I'll be able to finish it soon, relatively soon. But I am really excited about reading it, so that will be the first book on the TBR. And I am just doing, I don't know if I said this, I'm just doing 5. I normally do more than that, but I am not anticipating reading a ton because obviously I'm starting classes, I'm gonna be meeting people, like doing all the college things, so the reading time is probably not gonna be as there as it was last month for my 13 read books. So we're just gonna stick to 5 for now. And then I can always just mood read if I read more than 5 books. No harm, no foul, honestly. So we'll say I've already read a couple of books this month, so I'm excited to add to that number. And you guys can see me talk about that in my wrap up because I just went into this month without a TBR because I've been so busy, but we're setting the TBR right now. The second prompt is choose a book that's been on your TBR the longest and give it a chance this month. As I said, majority of the books that I have here are new. I would say the only thing that's here that's not new, maybe One Dark Window, but that's still like relatively recent compared to some of my other books that I own. So I'm gonna look at pictures on my bookshelves. I will get back to you on which one I'll be picking up. I found one of the very first pictures I took of my bookshelf. So I have the list of all the books that I bought first, pretty much. So we've got Heartbones by Colleen Hoover, which I don't really read much Colleen Hoover anymore. I did read that book and I did enjoy it a decent amount, so that one's been read. Icebreaker, which I've read. The Hating Game, which I have not yet read, but I am scared to read. The Fine Print, so the Dreamland Billionaire series. I've read The Fine Print, didn't really like it, so I'm a little hesitant to continue that series. Shatter Me, which I have read that entire series since buying that. Mile High and The Right Move, which are part of the same series. I haven't read either of those. And then Springtide by Kai Stevens, which I have since read that whole series. So think of those choices, I'm gonna go with Mile High. I really want to start that series, the Windy City series. I am in the Midwest. I'm not in Chicago or in Illinois, but I'm relatively close to Chicago. I'm like a day's drive away, so I feel like I should read it. And I also know so many people have been loving the new books in that series that are coming out. Like each book is just getting better and better for them, so I really want to get into it. I know the first one can be a little hard to get through from what I've heard from some people, but it's worth doing for the found family, is my understanding. So I'll put that on my TBR. We'll see if I end up reading it. I believe it's on Kindle Unlimited, so I can just read it on there. That will be my second book of the TBR. Third prompt is select a book from your TBR that's by an author you've never read before. This one, I think I'm gonna try to go with one of the ones I have here because so far I have a like YA romance fantasy kind of type book and then a romance. So I'm thinking I go fantasy maybe for this next one. I've read an Abby Jimenez book, so that one's not an option. I could read The Ministry of Time by Kayleen Bradley. If I butchered that, I'm sorry. But this is her debut novel, so it's not possible for me to have read another book by her yet. I've heard good things about it. It seems interesting. I just don't know if I'm in the mood for something like this, so that is an option. We have Legendborn by Tracy Dion. I've never read one of her books before, but this one's supposed to be really good. I've had multiple people recommend me this, and it should be right up my alley, and it seems engaging, so that's an option. This is the third book of the Chestnut Spring series by Powerless by Elsie Silver, so I've obviously read other books by her, so that's not an option. I could go Morbidly Yours by Ivy Fairbanks. Never read a book by her before. I think this is her debut novel, but I'm not, don't trust me on that, fact check that please. But I've been interested in reading this, so that's also an option. One Dark Window, Rachel Gillig. I've never read a book by her before. I've heard the series is just chef's kiss phenomenal. I also did accidentally get a little bit of my lip product on there at one point, so it's been claimed, but that's an option that I can read. And the remaining two I have are both by Emily St. John Mandel, which I read another book by, and that's why I bought these, so these are not options, unfortunately. So of these four, I think I'm gonna go One Dark Window because since I read the back of it, when I was deciding what books to bring, I read the back of it. I also asked, I'm in Destiny's Sidwell's book Discord, I did a little poll of like which of these books should I bring with me to college. This series won by mile, so since doing that and reading the back, I've been really intrigued to start it, so I'm gonna put that on my TBR, and that will be the first physical book we have on my TBR. The fourth one is to pick a book from my TBR that matches the season or my current surroundings. So I'm thinking I can either do like a college romance or something similar. It is currently September, so I count it as being fall, but it's like 80 degrees here, so I could go with a more summery book, but I don't know if I'm feeling that, you know? I think I'm gonna go with The Mistake by Elle Kennedy, which I believe is also on Kindle Unlimited, so I'll read it on there. It is a college hockey romance. I don't play hockey. As far as I'm aware, there's no hockey team here, but there could be because it gets cold enough that they could play hockey. Who knows? But it is set at a college, and I'm in college, so I'll put that one on my TBR. And that is the 4th book. So we have one more pick. The last prompt that the AI gave me is to pick the shortest book on my TBR. Let's do some fact checking, shall we? Okay, so this is 332 pages. This one's 301 pages. This one's 333. So I'm gonna just pick out of the physical books that I own with me right now because I can't guarantee that the actual shortest book on my TBR is on Kindle Unlimited or anything. And some books I own physically at home, I want to annotate physically, and so if I want to annotate that book physically and I'm forced to pick it because of this prompt, I don't want to read it on my Kindle, if that makes sense. So this is the shortest book on my physical TBR that I have with me. So I'm gonna put this on my TBR for the month, which is The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. This is the prequel novel / companion novel to a book by her that I read for school called The Sea of Tranquility. And this is about the events. I think this timeline-wise starts before Sea of Tranquility, but then overlaps with the plot of that. Or not plot, but with the timeline of that, kind of. So I don't really know anything about it, but I am excited to read it because I was intrigued by that mystery that was brought up in Sea of Tranquility and wanted to know what happened. And I loved her writing, so I feel like this would be such a fun read. So let's do a little TBR recap. The first book that I have is Anatomy, a Love Story by Dana Schwartz, which I have already started. I'm part of the way through it, and I'm enjoying it so far, but it is a little bit slower paced than the other books I've been reading, so I'm excited to see it pick up though, and it is very intriguing so far. Then we have Mile High by Liz Tomford, which I've owned forever, but I haven't read it yet, and I'm finally picking it up, and I'm excited to be doing so. I've heard such good things about the series, so. Then we have One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, which is supposed to be a really, really good fantasy, and I'm excited to get into it. I've been intrigued for a while now, and hopefully as the fall vibes start to happen, I can read this and it can be more fall feelings. That's the 3rd book that I have on my TBR. The 4th book that I have is The Mistake by Elle Kennedy, which is a college hockey romance. It's the 2nd book in the off-campus series. I've read the 1st book, but I haven't continued the series since, so I'm excited for that because I did enjoy the 1st book and I'm just intrigued to see what happens. Then the last book I have is The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel, which, as I said, is that prequel novel, and I also love the cover. It's just gorgeous. It's kind of giving ethereal, mysterious. So I'm excited to read that one as well. And I know most of my TBR is on Kindle, but those are the 5 books that I picked out for my TBR this month. Let me know what you guys are reading, and if you've read any of the books that are on my TBR or that I brought with me, do feel free to share and encourage me to read them because I always need that motivation. But that is all from me for right now. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.